It has now been more than 4 years since we got this. All it took was a long-winded trailer with some obvious nostalgia bait for the entire gaming community to collectively lose it. It was finally happening. After 5 years of silence since the catastrophic launch of Mass Effect Andromeda, we finally had confirmation that Mass Effect would indeed continue. And now, well, it's been another 4 years since the first announcement, but we still have no confirmation when the game is coming out or what it's actually going to be about. But we do have some ideas, and so today I'll be going down the rabbit hole of everything that we currently know about the next Mass Effect, where it might be headed, and what I personally expect for the future. That said, this video will mostly be about the game itself, so if you're looking to discuss the circumstances surrounding Bioware as a studio or just gaming in general, you're always welcome to have a chat during my weekly live streams. So remember to subscribe for any notifications for when I'm live or whenever I release a new video. Alright, now let's get into it. After the trailer aired at the Game Awards 2020, the Mass Effect team's director, Michael Gambel, took to Twitter to announce some of the people who were already working with him on the project. Some of these names included Parrish Lay, Derek Watts, Dusty Everman, and Brennan Holmes, all veteran developers who worked on the original Mass Effect trilogy. Obviously, these aren't the only names attached to the project, but they were some of the more notable individuals that older fans recognized, and Michael's announcement on Twitter served as a way to build good faith with the community after Andromeda, and I can still remember the excitement in the air after the first teaser trailer and information had gotten out. That excitement would last for several months leading up to the launch of the highly anticipated remaster of the original trilogy, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which reviewed very positively and brought even more hopefulness to the table, and the idea that Bioware might indeed be back. The fans were amped up and ready to hope again, and soon enough November rolled around and the Mass Effect community would find itself celebrating the first major N7 day in years. On November 7th, 2021, Michael Gambel and the Mass Effect team once again took to Twitter to actively tease the Mass Effect fanbase by showing us the first official poster for the game, which wasn't only filled with teasers about where the game might be heading, but also serving as a real confirmation that yes, the game was actually in production. The next Mass Effect wasn't just a pipe dream. The poster in question seemed to point at the return of the synthetic race known as the Geth, which created tons of fervent discussion. And we also got our first look at the successor to the Normandy SR2, as well as what seemed to be a red-armored Krogan walking next to several other individuals, teasing that this game might hit closer to home than we thought. Soon after, rumors started building that the Mass Effect team were moving on from the infamous Frostbite engine to using Unreal Engine 5. Which was met with celebration and excitement, and yet again, it seemed like the Mass Effect franchise was headed in the right direction. Now say what you will about Unreal 5, but back then the excitement was palpable as Unreal has always been considered the better engine in comparison to something like Frostbite, which time and time again has proven to be a very difficult engine to work with, at least for Bioware. But the good news didn't stop there, as halfway through 2022, Michael Gambel announced that the Mass Effect team had recruited another heavy hitter to their team, that being Mary DeMarle, who was the lead writer behind Deus Ex Human Revolution and then narrative director for its sequel, Mankind Divided, and then she served the same position during the production of Guardians of the Galaxy, which she accepted the Game of the Year award for Best Writing in 2021. Another noteworthy individual that joined the team was Michael Tucker, the creator of the YouTube channel Lessons from the Screenplay. Speaking of which, his video where he compares Mass Effect to Game of Thrones is incredibly insightful and really well made, so if you haven't given it a watch already, I highly suggest you do so. I'll be pinning a link to the video in the comment section below. Suffice it to say, the Mass Effect team was at this point already shaping up to be composed of some major industry talent, and the positive sentiment surrounding the next chapter of Mass Effect just kept building. This takes us to N7 Day 2022, when the Mass Effect team released the biggest teaser yet in the form of a corrupted video, a video that the community worked together to decode. The video contained distorted audio that, when restored, revealed the voice of Ali Hillis, the voice actress of the character Liara Tassoni, apparently speaking to an unknown Geth individual.
I can see it. How did we miss this? Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate human defiance.
This audio yet again had the collective Mass Effect fanbase buzzing, as we were now moving in a pretty clear direction, that being a return to the Milky Way galaxy and what seemed to be the characters within it that older fans know and love. But there was more, as Michael Gambel and the team yet again took to Twitter to release official art which teased the direction that the next game was going in, with clear callbacks to the trilogy and details that looked suspiciously familiar, such as what looked like a depiction of the planet Ilium or even Omega. Another year of anticipation rolled around, and we found ourselves at N7 Day 2023, where Michael Gambel and his team decided on going full steam ahead with the cryptic teasers. This time in the form of 3 separate messages that, when decoded, formed a fairly short video of a mysterious individual walking through a hallway. Now, what was particularly interesting about this teaser was that it's supposedly entirely rendered in engine, meaning that what we are looking at here is sort of reflective of what the graphics will be like when the full game is finished. That said, as is always the case, the final product will most likely differ a bit from what we see on display here. But it was still pretty cool to see something that was made in engine. In any case, Michael Gambel released yet another official poster in conjunction with this, where we yet again see this mysterious individual being the center focus of the poster, but with additional details added to it, such as a futuristic bar and even more teasers hidden in between, such as the appearance of a robed Geth figure standing next to what resembles Liara Tassoni. Yet again, the fanbase was abuzz, albeit with some people starting to get worn out by the constant teasing, which, to an extent, is understandable. Unfortunately, 2023 wasn't without controversies for Bioware, and it was here where we started to see the cracks in the foundations of the company. While the excitement was still pretty high for Mass Effect, news came out about the studio having laid off over 50 developers, including several devs who had been working at Bioware for more than 15 years. This pretty much put a dampener on the hype, and at this point, excitement started to grow into worry for the studio and its next upcoming game, Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Now, no matter how you personally felt about the game, the reality of the situation is that it unfortunately didn't sell very well. According to EA, the game underperformed, and as a seeming direct result of this, Bioware was downscaled considerably early this year, with around 20 or so developers being laid off, and more were moved to other parts of EA, which has resulted in Bioware now having less than 100 developers at the studio. What this means for the future is difficult to say, but one could assume that the next Mass Effect is most likely further away than we thought. The reason I say this is that according to Bioware themselves, the game is still in pre-production, and the next stage, the production cycle, will most likely last for at least 2 years or more, meaning we'll probably be at the end of the decade before the next Mass Effect comes out. Okay, now I'm gonna go off script for a bit here because as someone who has covered this franchise very extensively, I do have some additional thoughts to share. First of all, the Shepard question. I think it's pretty obvious that including Commander Shepard in some way would definitely go a long way for older fans, and as we've seen recently, Bioware desperately needs a win, so whatever increases those chances is something I think the Mass Effect team should keep in mind. And after all this time following the leadership and the development of the game, I think Michael Gambel and the core Mass Effect team absolutely has their ears to the ground. They can hopefully see where the wind is blowing and steer the ship accordingly, preferably without having to sacrifice any artistic vision they might have. What I mean by that is I don't think you should force any elements into your game if it doesn't make sense. Does it provide something to the story? Does it strengthen the emotional beats? Does it make the game more fun or satisfying? And so on. And this also brings us to the whole discussion surrounding Veilguard, as there seems to be a part of the community that fears that Mass Effect is going to turn out the same way. Which is why I think it's important to bring up that Michael Gambel himself actually confirmed that Mass Effect is simply not going to be the same with the following tweet. Lots of people asking me about Mass Effect now that Veilguard reviews are out. Both are from the same studio, but Mass Effect is Mass Effect. How you bring a sci-fi RPG to life is different than other genres or IPs, and has to have a different kind of love. Regarding tone questions, Mass Effect will maintain the mature tone of the original trilogy, and this is all I'm gonna say for now. And to a comment regarding the art style of Veilguard, he responded, "I'm not sure I agree with the Pixar thing, but Mass Effect is photorealistic and will be as long as I'm running it." Now, as the art style and tone was a massive complaint people had about Veilguard, I'd say that Michael's statements should be reassuring to anyone worried about the tone of the game. But only time will tell, and we'll simply have to wait and see, and hopefully we'll get some new teasers on in 7 days so we have some more stuff to talk about. But that's enough talking for today. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a very pleasant day. This has been Mr. Holton, signing off.